Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. My name is Dr. Catherine Garforth. I am the founder of Garforth Education. And today I am talking to you about screening students for risk. And before I go deeply into this conversation, I just wanted to share a quote by Dr. Louisa Moats, just because I think it really encapsulates what I'm trying to communicate in today's live on screening for risk and tomorrow's live on the importance of early intervention. And it says, early identification and intervention with students who show the warning signs of dyslexia are critically important for better outcomes later on. Now, this is really important because research has shown that early intervention is the most effective intervention, and it can take effect quickly and make it so that our students don't need as intensive intervention. Research has also shown there are skills that we can measure when students are young that will show us um, areas that they have weaknesses in that are going to predict uh, the likelihood of their ability to learn how to read. And this isn't just for students who show risk for a learning disability like dyslexia. It's also for students who are from a language minority background and don't necessarily have English as a first language. And for students with coming from low uh, socioeconomic socioeconomic status homes or low SES homes that are at heightened risk just because of the experiences that they're bringing with them to school. Now, the research is clear on the skills that we can look at to help predict their success at reading. And the main thing that I want to get across to you is when I'm talking about screening students for risk, this is something that we can do in preschool, kindergarten, grade one. And at this point, they do not meet the eligibility for a diagnosis. And we are not trying to diagnose these students with anything. We are just trying to identify the risk of them failing in the future so that we can provide them with the support they need to succeed when they are learning how to read. And this can be done for math as well. So once we identify the risk of our students in class, then we are able to find out how we can support the students in our class access reading and mathematics. And there are various different screening measures available. In the United States, there's the majority of the states have regulation for dyslexia screening. But unfortunately, we're not quite there yet in Canada. But a screening measure is not meant to be a long, extended activity that takes up a lot of your time. It's just meant to be, under 10 minutes with each student so that you can get a better idea of where they are to help predict how learning how to read or learning their mathematics is going to be for them. So there are several different measures available out there. There are some that are free, there are some that cost money. They all look at hopefully the same things. The key areas that you want to look at in those young students in pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and grade one are looking at their phonological awareness or their awareness of speech sounds within the language and their phonemic awareness, which is the highest level of phonological awareness. And that's their ability to manipulate the sounds within the language. These are skills that are directly needed for reading, but they do not require reading to have been taught or the student to be able to read. Now, the activities that we can do to support uh, children that struggle with phonological awareness are, again, things that we can start doing in preschool. And there are a lot of resources on the Goforth Education blog that go into more detail about phonological awareness. And actually, every Friday, I do a post about phonological awareness to help you learn more about this critical skill that's needed for people to become successful readers. Now, there's some other areas that you want to look into. One of them is automatic and accurate naming of objects, such as the letters of the alphabet, numbers, colors, or pictures, because this is going to look at how quickly or fluently they can name the letters or the numbers or whatever object they are identifying for you. And this comes into play when they're reading. How long does it take them to recognize the letter on the page or the letters within a word? Now, this is something that they're going to need practice with to build up their speed or their fluency in doing this. And if they don't have a great speed, it's going to be an area that they struggle in until they build up this fluency, and that takes practice. Now, another thing to look at is their ability to associate the letters of the alphabet with the sounds. And this is where phonics instruction begins. So this is really for the students in pre-K, K, and grade 1, because we want to know, do they know the relationship between the letters and sounds within the language? Because they need to know this relationship in order to read. And this brings in the phonological awareness skills that we talked about earlier, that they use their awareness of the sounds within the language to figure out what the relationship is between the letters of the sounds and put them together in their words. So, for example, if a student is able to hear the sounds k, a, t, then they are able to blend those sounds into a word that is cat. This means that when they go to sound out words and they know the letter sound relationship between the letters and the sound, that they're going to be able to know that CAT represents the sounds k, a, t, and we blend those sounds together for cat. Now, another area that's important to look at is vocabulary development. And this is important because it's going to be very hard for a child to learn to read and understand what they are reading if they don't have the vocabulary to support it. So when children are reading and sounding out a word, having that word in their vocabulary lets them make the association between the letter sounds that they have sounded out and that word. This is very important when they come to sounds that have, when they come to letters that can have multiple sounds. So, for example, if they were reading the word tall, it's spelled T-A-L-L. Well, if you're going to sound that out with the most simple letter sound relationships that students are first taught, they will say t, a, ooh, ooh. So they need to be able to go towel. Well, that's not quite right, but that sounds really close to tall, right? So they're able to use their knowledge of the vocabulary within the language to notice that, okay, well, no, A also makes that ah sound. So it's tall. And these are all skills that they're going to draw on when they're reading. So, as a teacher, if you're able to get the time to find out this information about the students in your class, it's going to pay dividends in the future because you're then going to be able to focus your whole group instruction on areas where all of your students are struggling and need extra support on. Then it's going to give you the information that you need for those group of students that are weaker in one particular area to do those in a small group instruction. And if there's a student that is really, really struggling with a skill, they can get that more intensive one-on-one support. Now, these interventions are very effective when we work on them with our younger students, especially if we're able to work on their vocabulary development and phonological awareness, as well as their letter identification ability before we're actually teaching them how to read, because that means they aren't falling behind their peers. Their peers haven't been taught how to read, so they are okay not knowing how to read at that point, and we have the time to focus on those skills. So that's one of the reasons why I feel screening is so important, because it gives us as educators the opportunity to take that child and provide them the support that they need before they begin to struggle. This saves you a lot of challenges when you're trying to teach your class as a whole a new skill like reading. It also saves the child from the pain of not learning their first job when they go to school, and that's learning how to read. And this can have, long-term damages for a child, and it gets harder and harder to catch up as they progress through schools. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, screening my class can take a long time. But really, if you have a class of 20 students, and you're only spending, a maximum of 10 minutes a student, that's under 3 hours of your entire school year. And you know what? That's less than 1% of your teaching time. This information is so valuable, and you will see more progress, and you're going to really help those kids that are at risk. You're going to help prevent this potential struggle that they have. And yes, you're not going to necessarily be able to help all students keep up with their grade level peers when they learn how to read, but you're going to reduce the level of their struggle. So there's still going to be that percent of the students that struggle, but there have been numerous research studies around the world that have used this screening model of screening early and screening often for young children in the early primary grades to identify risk, using that information to inform their instruction and help support those skills that the students are weak in, so they get better and better in these skills, so that when they finally do begin their reading instruction, they are ready for it. And again, there are lots of fun ways to incorporate these early literacy skills that don't involve opening a book. There are ways that they can do it as a class, and a little bit goes a long way at this time in their development. So I do really encourage it. And one thing that I do want to mention is, if you're going to be screening your class, make sure you actually use the results that you get to inform your instruction, because screening and identifying risk and knowing these areas of weakness really can help change your instruction for the better and really support these students. But if you're not using the information you gather from the screening results, then you're not gonna, provide the advantage to these students that need the support. So I will do my best to provide a couple of resources, and after this live is available for replay, I want to remind you that tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. And in that live, I'm going to be looking more at the importance of early intervention and why this can make such a difference for our students who are at risk. And again, this is something that I'm really passionate about, obviously. So please, if you do have any questions and you weren't available to watch this live, do drop them below in the comments. I would be happy to address them later. And even if you want to send me a direct message to ask me questions, I'd be happy to help lead you in a way that you can find more information about how to go about screening students for risk in their classroom.